do have our restreamed runners, at least on SpeedGaming 4. It doesn't look like we have that sound quite yet, but at least we've got our 4 runners going. Yeah, meanwhile, it looks like Hitsu is actually trying to make his way to Dark Cross. Not actually sure if he has the lamp. We're going to find out in a sec. By the fact that he has black screen and sword sparkles means that he has not picked up the lamp that it looks like Team Sexy Ganis has picked up.
Yeah, and as you said, Freddeh has headed straight over to the to Desert here to go ahead and grab that mirror, it looks like.
Oh yeah, speaking of the lamp, I think I peeked. Yaga grabbed the lamp off of Desert Ledge. Okay, so that means that Hitsu, at least Ace should have it relatively soon, since he's in the desert area. Man, 2 pieces of progression in the desert you had to walk all the way over here for. That's not that much fun, but at least it's in co-op, so you can at least send one of your partners, right, to go and check things out.
Yeah, exactly. But I mean, at that point, having one person grab it and then knowing that you have to walk your butt all the way over there and grab it afterwards, it's still not a great feeling.
The hope, of course, is that by the time that you go over there, you have the boots.
Right, boots, hook shot even, wouldn't say no to a flute, just anything that makes that a little bit faster.
Yeah, I'm sure, for Hitsu, after hearing from his partner Ace that, hey, there's a lamp on Desert, he'd be like, oh, well, did I really have to do all those dark rooms?
Yeah, that's a good point. So with Freddeh sitting in Desert here, he is going to be able to clear this dungeon with the lamp sitting on the Desert Ledge.
Just because you can, does that mean that you should? What he does with the hammer, which doesn't make things too bad, but he is on, in terms of his damage output, though, is probably not exactly the best of times for him.
That's a good point, and it's a situation where, like, you feel one of 2 ways about hammer landmo. It's either, this is fine, it's not a big deal, I can do this, or it's, no.
Yeah, certainly. Yeah, I think I didn't quite catch if Desert was a crystal or pendant, but if there were no items physically left in Desert, and if it's just like landmill clear, I'm sure they can come back at a later time with like the fire rod or maybe like the tempered sword or something, and they can just knock out landmill whenever they want to.
That's a good point. Desert is a 5/6 crystal, though, and you are correct with both the items being in the front, the other item being the cape, in addition to the wonderful mirror that we are aware of. And it does look like Freddeh is at least going to head over to the ledge. Meanwhile, we do get a map check, and it looks like our other 5/6 is going to be Mire, with pendants on Skull Woods and Turtle Rock. So good luck finding that ice rod.
We have to say that every seat, right?
I mean, yeah, that's fair, but now it can be in GT.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's a nice perk of all dungeons, is that sometimes you get to have the advantage or the privilege of going into GT and look for your go mode item. That's not the big key.
You really genuinely have a knack for saying things in a much kinder way than they should be said.
That's the positive and fun part of Rando, right?
Yes, I'm positive that I hate mini Moldorms, and you're like, yeah, they're fun. No, oh wow, there's a hook shot in Hera. Well, looks like we're going to see a Hera pot maybe here, and yep, looks like Yagamoth is setting up for a Hera pot.
That is, that's actually a really good call on Yaga. Considering Max Richter, is that quick? Is that what I saw on either tablet? Max Richter scale? That sounds like a Quake medallion to me.
Yeah, that would be quick.
Misplaced medallion potentially. Yeah, but I was gonna say for Yaga to kind of go over here to Hera, he probably wasn't planning on basically either completing Hera or kind of keep going, mainly because he doesn't have the hookshot, but the fact that he found it.
Yeah, this does make it a lot easier. With the hammer and mirror combined, he'd be able to get everything up Death Mountain, at least in the light world, but this makes it a lot easier. it also makes, you know, clearing Hera quite a bit easier.
Yeah, it looks like Yaga is setting up the bomb setup, or at least attempting to set up the bomb setup for Herapod. You know, like having having boosts in general is really nice, but of course, it's the fact that you can actually do a really nice, pretty straightforward Herapod setup. Looks like with the boost, but yeah, he ends up getting it second try. And with that hammer in hand, you know, without a sword, he does have a weapon now in order to clear Moldorm. Meanwhile, looks like we have Ace and Yaga potentially also being up in Death Mountain. Looks like potentially... oh no, sorry, Freddeh is up in Death Mountain. Looks like potentially he's going to follow suit, and he's going to also pick up his hook shot. Not often we actually get to see teammates kind of in the same area at the same time, but you know, if this is going to be a linear seed, which we've also seen before, you know, this is not something unexpected.
Yeah, and that's the one unfortunate aspect of doing a co-op. Sometimes you end up doing a co-op or watching a co-op, and it ends up being much more linear in nature. And those aren't quite as fun because it ends up just being a game of tag. Oh, well, hello. That's a, what would we call that, French vanilla moon pearl?
Well, you know, we're just picking up all sorts of goodies here on, on Death Mountain.
Yeah, no kidding. Moon Pearl, 2 checks later than it normally would be, I'm fairly certain. Instead of being in the big chest, it's just sitting on our wonderful friend, Moldorm.
Yeah, it looks like from Yaga's game screen, he just cleared Moldorm for that green pendant. He is going to keep going to the right side, you know, with the hammer, with the hook shot. He can certainly get a lot of Paradox Death Mountain here. Hopefully he can find the boost in one of these 7 checks, because then at least he can dash through, but looks like he's going to go through Spiral Cube first.
Yep, and this is one of those situations where you really wish you had the boots.
This is one of the situations, many situations where you wish you had the boots even more, right?
That's a fair point. That's very fair. As it is, Yaga is probably just furiously pumping.
Pumping is actually a mechanic that, if I didn't know that mechanic existed, I would have probably never guessed that these runners weren't doing anything else except just holding like a directional button.
Yeah, so pumping, if you're somewhat unfamiliar with it, it's really kind of a weird mechanic. So basically how it works is if you are moving in an upwards or in a leftwards direction, for the first frame that you move that direction, you will move 2 pixels. And then for the 3 or 4 frames following, I don't remember if it's a 4-frame window or 5-frame window or repeating, but you will move 1 pixel for those following ones. And if you're moving diagonally in any particular direction, you just move 1 pixel per frame every single time. So if you hold down, if you are moving either left or up, and you hold down that button, and then what they call basically pump or furiously hit a direction that will put you up against a wall or against another diagonal, basically what you will do is you're refreshing that counter. So you're moving 2 pixels, and then when you successfully pump and then release that other button, you move 2 pixels again, and it helps you gain a little bit of movement over just holding down a button. It is very, very meticulous, and it's for a very, very minimal gain. But the people who are the top competitors of this game, they definitely use it.
Hammer, I very much appreciate the explanation for pumping. And, you know, as you were giving that explanation, I was really hoping that we will see more of it. But then, of course, Yaga just had to go and ruin all the fun for you because he ended up picking up the boots in Paradox Cave. So probably, you know, because, you know, both Hitsu and Ace are also in Death Mountain, Yaga, Freddeh's going to pick up his boots too, just in the side. We're probably not going to see much more pumping for the rest of the scene.
Well, you know, I was just trying to be helpful here.
Oh, no.
I should have known better. Once you start talking about a tech, they're going to get the very item that makes that tech obsolete. So it's okay.
It's just your blessing, right, for these runners, because you start to talk about pumping, and then hey, suddenly like that's just an indication that they're going to get the boots.
I suppose that is one way to look at it.
Yeah, we actually see some co-op communication here on Freddeh and Yaga's side. Freddeh, I think, was actually just trying to get basically just the blue mail out of Paradox Cave, right? You actually see him basically saving quitting right out when he ended up picking up that blue mail.
Speaking of, we did have a quick PED check, and for those of you who love seeing something on PED, sorry, try again next seed, just couch cash. Alright, so one of the big differences here is that our team on the right has a sword in hand, and Freddeh and Yaga do not. So Freddeh happened to practice some lifting exercises to get those bushes out, because without a sword, there's no dashing through them.
Yeah, having the boots, certainly everyone's very happy to, have them. No one wants, in this case, having no boots versus boots. Having that sword, though, is a massive boon to having the sword. In fact, many people consider to have both the sword and boots for this game to be playable. Because, as actually, in this case, Yaga is in Thieves Town, he's going to demonstrate. When he doesn't have the sword, he's going to end up having to probably stop and not be able to dash through enemies, because once he gets hit and dashes through enemies, he's going to have to stop.
Yeah, that's a good point. I'm fairly certain that that's why that hook shot is going to stay equipped the entire time, because then you can basically dash right up to an enemy, whack him with a hook shot, and continue on. And that's as close to smooth sailing as you're going to get doing swordless dashes.
Yeah, I'm sure on Yaga's side, he's really hoping to pick up a sword as soon as he possibly can in this case. But he's demonstrating some really good hookshot techniques here, right? Like, for example, to get that big key in Thieves Town, he ended up hookshotting there. And I think that's the fastest movement that you have there, despite the fact that you do have boots you can dash.
Yeah, the tricky thing about the boots is that you have to deal with a half-second or 30-frame kind of buffer as you stand in one place and, I guess, gather up momentum to go fast. And hookshot kind of ignores that for the shorter periods of space. Obviously, if you're hookshotting across a room, that's going to take an extensive period of time. But in certain situations like that one right there, going through the mini Hellway room there, it's nicer to use hookshot just so you can kind of ignore enemies and go through them.
Yeah, unfortunately, he actually got through that hallway probably as best as he could probably ask for without a sword. But the fact that he had to kind of like pause and stop kind of the way through just shows you how much more valuable having a sword is there. And these crickets, 2 hearts of damage each. They are not fun. You see Yaga have to try to basically reorient himself almost every cricket movement there.
Oh, I see. So the mini Moldorms are fun, but the crickets are terrible.
Well,
okay.
I mean, these crickets do 2 hearts of damage. Mini Moldorms only do 1.
That's a fair point. I will give you that. It also takes tempered sword damage or a nice hook shot to the face to get rid of these crickets. So yeah, they are low-key one of the most terrifying enemies in the game if you're just playing this at the for the standard vanilla run through. It's not fun. They can mess up your day pretty quickly.
Yeah, it looks like we actually have quite a bit of divergence once again. It looks like everyone's progression into Dark World is pretty linear, right? Everyone basically kind of was funneled through Hera in order to get the hook shot and the boots and the Moon Pearl. Looks like once they kind of got into Dark World, world is wide open to them once again, right? Looks like Freddeh is trying to make some progress into Pod, whereas we see Yaga kind of finishing off Thieves Town. And of course, Hitsu making his way in Skull Woods. Low-level Moth has never, I guess, scared Hitsu, as he attempts to finish the back of Skull Woods here on 6 hearts. At least he has a blue mail, but the spikes don't care, actually, what mail you have.
Yeah, that's a good point. That blue mail does put you in a situation where everything in that room is going to do 1 heart of damage to you, so it's kind of 6 of one, half dozen the other for
He's got a really nice full magic drop there, so at least he'll have a couple more fire rod shots. He does have the hammer, my co-commentator notwithstanding, so he does have a little bit more leeway here in order to fight Mothula. It looks like he didn't quite end up slashing the Gibdo into that spike, which is kind of like the normal strat, but he gets it through, no problem. Waits for the Wall Master to drop down before he drops down himself, so he doesn't end up getting 1.0 and carried all the way back to the beginning of the dungeon. And here we go.
Now, the tricky thing about Mothula here is that anytime you smack a moth into the spikes, the damage that you do is overwritten, and because Mothula takes 0 damage to spikes, your hit is basically nullified. So really nicely done there early on, getting those fire rod shots in, and at this point we have taken out the hammer, and yeah, just a couple shots there, a really, really nice moth fight.
Yeah, very hard-earned map of Skull Woods there, and the blue pendant for, I can't track of how many pendants and crystals they picked up, but I'm sure Hitsu is very happy to see that.
Well, with green pendant being Hera, I know that's at least 2. So I want to say the third one was Turtle Rock, so we're not going to be able to see that one for quite a bit of time. And we are live.
Yes, I hear sound. This is great. Thank you so much to our tech crew behind the scenes here in order to get this fixed. Definitely a lot of hard work. So thank you so much.
Yeah, and technology is wonderful until it decides to be a pain in the butt, so...
Yeah, and of course, and the fact that our layout looks like it's changed, we can actually see the amazingly great progress and accuracy that our trackers have definitely been through with us for the earlier part of this race here.
Looks like we've had a ped check on the other side, so both sets of teams knowing at this point that pedestal is just a handful of rupees.
Yeah, something tells me with the rupee counts that these guys have, they're probably not going to be interested in pulling the ped.
Yeah, I can't imagine so. Even Hitsuyan a little low on rupees, but I think he'll be okay.
Maybe he could have thrown some rupees at that mini Hilva sword. The fact that Hitsu still doesn't have a sword, I guess maybe he was just being more stubborn than anything else. Ended up getting kind of knocked out and had to start that bridge again.
You mean AceZer0?
Oh, I meant Ace. Yes, I'm sorry. Hitsu was definitely on the top left, or as yes, he was on top.
That's fair.
That's right.
So far, unless I missed something on a pod not being terribly useful, which, I mean, it isn't if you decide to go check it. It's only if you don't go there that, you know.
Yeah, normally, you expect to find a hammer pod, a bow and pod, but in this case, it looks like Hitsu has found progression in Skull Woods, which is the Titansmiths. Yaga following very shortly afterwards.
I'm fairly certain our runners also aren't going to say no to that sword that was sitting in the Eastern Palace big chest.
You will never turn down a sword. Just you'll never turn down half magic, you'll never turn down boots. Yeah, it looks like with these Titansmiths in hand, Yaga and Hitsu have a very similar idea. They're going to probably check, in this case, Graveyard Ledge, which has definitely not been pleasant in some races, so I'm really glad they're getting this check, and more importantly, they can also get teams soon.
Clear Mouse?
Hitsu is actually doing... Yes?
Clear Mouse. What did you say about the bow being in pod?
Was there a bow in pod?
It was in the chest. You did this.
Well, you're welcome, Ace.
You did this.
Oh,
and actually, that's really convenient, because not only is AceZer0 now going to be able to clear pod, also going to be able to follow that up with a clear of Eastern immediately afterwards. But man, that's a dirty bow placement.
This is the kind of galaxy brain co-op strategy that team Ace and Hitsu are employing here. Yeah, certainly you see here in co-op, as mentioned, people are checking Graveyard Ledge, people are checking kind of more out-of-the-way locations. You actually see Freddeh going up into Catfish, He does. I can't remember if anyone actually ended up checking Zora, but this is actually a really good combination. You don't only see runners kind of making these out of the way checks unless they absolutely have to. But of course, in co-op, like you said, if you want to send your partner over to do a check that's somewhat out of the way or that's somewhat unpleasant, that's what he's there for.
Yeah, that is a good point. And the potential of getting burned by a really out of the way check is, it feels a lot worse when you know that your average times are going to be taken. People are going to be more, oh wow, hello flute. All right, so let's see if Freddeh can do a, I don't know, can you even do a, I don't think you can. I don't think you can do an Ancilla delete with the items Freddeh has on screen. So I think that Ocarina is just going to sit there on the ledge.
Yeah, Freddeh also realizing that without the flippers, he can't really, kind of go through like the normal dash all the way and then kind of swim down, without the flippers. And I think you're right, but we're gonna see if Freddeh knows something that, in this case, that we are not aware of. I was gonna laugh if he ended up picking up vanilla flippers. All right, looks like he's saving quitting, yeah, because I think the Ancilla deletion you need at least a bow or a Cane of Samaria.
Yeah, Bow, Cane of Samaria, Redarang, they're all incredibly useful for Ancilla delete. None of which Freddeh has, so I guess what he could do if he really wanted to is you could go back over towards the Ice Rod Cave and then set up a water walk, fake flipper there, and then do the water walk downwards towards that ledge. That's kind of a pain in the butt to figure out, so just going to be leaving that flute there for now.
Yeah, and certainly at this point, the flute, while it's very nice to have in terms of mobility, right now they're kind of only being blocked by that flute in order to get access to Mire, which, is much better still late game versus early. So the fact that they don't have the flute, or Freddeh can't get the flute right at this exact moment, probably won't end up hurting him too much.
Yeah, that's a fair point. And then also with the fact that they do have the boots and the hookshot, they're not completely and totally strapped for ways to go fast.
Yeah, the fact that these guys actually found, early-ish boots, what was it, like 15 or 20 minute mark? I'm sure they're much happier now rather than later. We've definitely seen C's so far in this co-op tournament where, you get boots for go mode or you don't see boots at all.
Yeah, and that's a terrible feeling for all dungeons, like if you're running through a regular seed and you don't find the boots, it's like, you know what, that's okay. It could have been in Pendant Pod and I didn't have to go in there for anything, so that's nice. But with all dungeons, if you don't find the boots, it's like, but I checked everything.
Yeah. And I had to walk up hills both ways.
Yeah, emphasis on walking, most definitely.
Alright, we see here Hitsu doing Thieves Town. We actually kind of see what the difference that sword can actually make here. The fact that he can actually dash much more liberally, as compared to when, I think it was Freddeh or Yaga, I can't remember which one, was here first. Yeah, it looks like, meanwhile, Yaga found some pretty nice things up in Dark Death Mountain via Super Buddy Cave and Hookshot Cave. He is now on Temper Sword, so we went from no sword to fighter sword to Temper Sword pretty dang fast.
And that's generally how these things work. Looks like Yagamoth is heading into Ice Palace.
Yeah, with the Fire Rod, half magic, which I must have missed where he ended up picking that up. He has the hammer, he has the hook shot. I think he should be. He has Temper Sword. He should be good to go here.
Yeah, very much so. And that Tempered Sword ensures that, just in case Cold Stare does get a little bit annoying, it's at least not going to be terribly dangerous, hopefully. That full magic drop, though, as I'm talking about things that are going to make the Cold Stare fight easier, that was pretty nice, I'm not going to lie.
Yeah, and the fact that this is probably also something that runners are more willing to do in co-op mode is to come into Ice Palace without the King of Samaria. In that, Yaga can actually, in this case, explore and see what Ice Palace has to offer. And hopefully by the time that Freddeh kind of gets up here, they'll have found the cane. So then when Freddeh ends up clearing Ice Palace, you can just do Icebreaker and make this trip a little bit faster.
Yeah, that's a good point. Another reason that you see runners check pretty much everything in co-op is because you're in a situation where at any given point, you're going to have at least one way to go. Because seeds are linear and they're going to point you in at least one direction. But for co-op, what you really want the seed to do is to point you in at least two directions at all times, because you've got a buddy who can take out one of those directions and you can take out the other. So a situation where you have access to, let's say, the pod eastern area on one side, as Freddeh does not realize that he does not have enough money for those smiths.
That is so unfortunate, because the smiths only cost 10 rupees, and for Freddeh he only has 4.
Spoiler alert, you need $10. But anyways, because of that, if it's pointing you towards one direction that would be the most convenient, you don't want both runners to go that one way, because then you're not actually gleaning anything from your time. You want to know where everything is first, because then you know everything that you can skip and thus get through things more quickly. So then you see situations like someone rolling into to Ice Palace without Cane of Samaria, because it's technically clearable and it gives one person something to do while the other person does Smith Chain, for instance, with only 5 rupees.
I believe it was 4 at the time, but I just want to be technically correct. But yes, so one of the things to keep in mind, actually, the win condition is the average time between both runners for when they complete Ganon. So as long as you can somewhat, maybe reasonably, kind of balance out the long checks between you and your partner, that is certainly something that hopefully you can take advantage of. If you can amortize basically the cost together.
Yeah, that's fair. And actually, given the way that we're scoring these races, that's not even as big of a deal as it might be, because 2 of the main ways to score co-op seeds is either you can take the last person's finish of each team, and that's your best time, or you can do what we're doing now and take the average of the 2 times. Now, obviously, if you're taking the last person, then yeah, you do want to make sure that you and your teammate are finishing as close to the same time as possible, because it's only the last person's finish time that matters. But in this instance, if you have one person check most of the annoying out-of-the-way stuff, and the other person mostly check dungeons and be able to get stuff along the way, the second person's quick finish time is going to have just as much of an important portion of your ending race time as the other person's slower time. So it's actually not that big of a deal.
Yeah, so and I guess for everyone that was curious, we did see Hitsu having the requisite 10 rupees out of the 600. He did pay off the dwarves, and it was just a heart. It was just a heart piece.
Yeah, so that's not going to be something that's really going to be a problem, since I'm pretty sure that Purple Chest didn't have anything either. So Yagamoth might choose to do that, or Freddeh might head back there later with the flute in hand. But skipping that check is not going to be the end-all be-all. AceZer0 taking his turn on Moth, and really nicely done.
Yeah, certainly a little bit safer, because he ends up having, I think, a couple more heart containers than his counterpart Hitsu had when he first kind of came over to Moth, but still a really nice fight indeed. Meanwhile, it looks like we got our first check into Swamp, because Freddeh had picked up the flippers with the mirror, with the hook shot. This should be a fully playable dungeon. Let's see if he ends up doing left side Swamp first. I was personally witness to a previous runner, I think last night, decided to do left side Swamp first, and ended up finding the map and compass, which is kind of like, of all the times you do left side Swamp first, right?
That is literally the worst feeling. That's one of those feelings that honestly might lead me to forfeit one of these races. Is just, oh, well, we're done.
Hopefully that won't be the case tomorrow, Hammer. Alright, looks like Yaga, meanwhile, has dropped in the cold stare. He had a really nice start there, being able to bunch those puffs in the corner. I think he was just actually 1 slash short, unfortunately, but really nice cold stare fight, very fast. And picks up his next crystal. So it looks like, according to our great trackers, this is Yaga's second crystal, in addition to his green pendant. So 3 down, a bunch more to go.
That girl, of course, as we find the shovel in the compass chest of swamp, because where else would it be? Actually, that's not, all things considered, a terrible spot for it, since the shovel check is, right there with the mirror. It's fully doable. But yeah, everyone having grabbed that green pendant, since, that's Dark World access.
Yeah, it looks like Freddeh is still on Fighter Sword here. He's going to give us a demonstration of the bomb setup with Diver Down. Looks really nice, gets a first shot. A lot of people prefer the cane setup. Of course, if you don't have the cane, the bomb setup is really the only other option you have. So oftentimes you'll see a lot of top level runners just know both of them really well.
Yeah, and at that point, if you know the bomb setup really well, there's no real reason to worry about the cane setup, because, well, I mean, you're not going to be in a situation... Well, I guess you could have a situation where you're very low on bombs, and the only thing you could have to be able to do it is the cane. But by and large, that's not a terribly likely scenario.
Yeah, kind of unfortunate though, just from Yaga's side, his partner in crime here has found a ton more swords than him, and he's actually going to be fighting Argus on Fighter Sword. So this unfortunately seems to be a little bit slower for him versus when Yaga comes in.
Yeah, it looks like we are doing the double puff, double spin strat, which is really, 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 really difficult. I know these runners generally make it look like only a minor convenience. Let me tell you, it's infuriating to try. Not even gonna lie.
Everything that these guys do, as you said, looks easy.
Yeah, that's a good point. That's generally just a pretty good assumption to make. Does it look easy? Don't worry, it's probably not. And now the sexy Ganons is going to be able to get their confirmed piece of heart off of our wondrous smith.
Alright, being able to witness on Ace's side, there were in fact 2 swords in Super Bunny Cave. One after the other.
Dun, dun, dun. I guess you grabbed the one sword, then the other one really tempered your expectations.
Alright, so we did see Freddeh picking up the big key on Argus. Certainly a really nice fight there, having only Fighter Sword and the hook shot. I had unfortunately not checked up how many items there are, but but looks like Freddeh... Okay, looks like Freddeh was just going to fake us out and eventually advised to go back into Swamp. I was going to say that I think in co-op all dungeons, you go back regardless of how many items there are, unless it's 0, but I guess maybe he was having a bit of indecision.
Yeah, judging by his indecision, I would argue there's probably 1 item in here, but there may be more. It kind of depends on the individual runner. I know that most runners relatively early on will go back if there's 2 items, and are slightly less likely to do so if there's... Okay, so there's at least 2 items since we pulled one out of the big chest, and now we are we're moving on. So there's 2 or 3.
Alright, so we have Blade in chat here, watching Hitsu probably closer than the rest of us, so thank you. Looks like he is saying that Hitsu found the other bow in left side swamp, in addition to that mushroom.
Yeah, so Freddeh not making a bad call here by going left side swamp.
Does kind of make me wonder, when Hitsu eventually goes back to pod, if he's actually going to go get silvers. I guess maybe it depends on whether or not he's going to be in pod go mode at that point.
Oh yeah, that's a good point. And there wasn't anything else back there.
This is very reminiscent of another scene that Hitsu ended up playing where he purposely skipped left side swamp, went to pendant pod to pick up his bow, and it turns out there was the other bow in left side.
I don't know. Well, it'll be interesting to see. I think, honestly, it might at least partially come down to offensive capability and whether or not Mire has been done. Because with the current loadout, Hitsuyan is going to save a boatload of time with silvers on Vidi, if nothing else.
Ah, yeah, that is actually a good point. The fact that, maybe the fact, if I can't actually remember where the key was, but giving those hammers, giving those silvers is definitely a really nice time save for Vitreous. Also for just having Silver Ganon, right, is just really nice. Probably at that point might be worth the cost of picking the silvers up.
The amusing part here is that Freddeh and Yaga are not yet aware of the wondrous bow sitting in pod. So Freddeh is probably going to be the first person over there to go find that glorious, glorious bow. And it's probably going to be a really, really funny find, all things considered. But it does look like we are going to get that flute first, if I had to guess.
Yeah, I guess I'm curious if Ace is actually going to go to Left Side Swan and pick up the bow, right? Because, you know, if you're kind of already in pod, right, going to like the back of the maze, probably isn't that big a deal. But if you're going to do Left Side Swan for silvers, that's probably a more difficult choice.
It honestly depends on where that big key is, and I could not tell you off the top of my head where it was. If that big key is early, then you could save doing anything in the back of pod. So that's quite a bit of time as well, because then you don't have to worry about picking up more than one small key, and then the early big key, and then you could go. So I'm not sure. I think it also depends on whether or not they can do the left side specific diver down setup, because that does save a bit of time as well.
Yeah, chat also bringing up a good point. If the mushroom turn is anything, then chances are, if they already have to do left side swamp anyway, they're definitely going to pick up the silvers.
Oh yeah, that's fair. That's definitely without saying. Yeah, if you have to go grab the mushroom, it's completely pointless to not pick up silvers at that point. You're talking about a 5-second check at most.
All right, looks like Freddeh actually has picked up the flute from the Zora area using those newfound flippers. I know that we did a Turtle Rock check, but I think it was Bombas, and so sooner probably rather than later, Freddie's going to activate his flute and probably give us a check at the Mire area. Looks like, at least according to our trackers, that no one has found Bombas, so that's definitely something else that they have to find in order to clear the seed.
Yeah, it's looking like overall that ice rod that I mentioned before, man, if it's a GT, I'm sorry. I really am.
Oh yeah, that's right. TR is a pendant, and we already know that nothing's on the pedestal.
Oh man, I said that early on, and now I'm kind of regretting it. Just don't tell it. Just don't tell any of the runners I said it. They can realize it afterwards when they watch the restream if they do.
Alright, so we have Yaga, Moth fighting Moth here, pulling out the cape because Moth refused to cooperate for him. But it was really, really nice fight. And the fact that Yagamoth had tempered in order to fight Mothula, in this case, probably had a bit of an easier time as well.
Meanwhile, it does look like we are going to get a mushroom turn in here.
I thought Freddie almost might be going after those 5 rupees the way he was heading back.
Alright, and with that mushroom just being a small shield, we do not actually require left side. And Freddeh getting that same check, so it'll be interesting to see if our runners will decide to do it. At this point, Yagamoth is much more likely to get silvers, or at least go get that bow off of left side swamp. Just because, well, they don't know where the other bow is yet. But that'll be found out sooner rather than later once they do decide to do the pod eastern area.
Yeah, so as far as how open, I guess, like, the Dark World was when everyone kind of first got in, it looks like actually there's somewhat more of another bottleneck, in terms of trying to make the seed a bit more linear, because we actually did see in fairly close time windows, basically everyone had to go back to the Azora area and get their flutes.
Yeah, that's fair. I think that's part of it. I also think the flute's one of those things that the earlier you grab it, the more time it's going to save you. So it's one of those situations where if you can grab it, just go ahead and do it because, it's going to save you time. And it being all dungeons, there isn't really a choice. Even if Meyer were a pendant, which it isn't in this case, you're going to need that flute. So I don't blame our runners for just going to grab it, because you're going to have to. You might as well.
Yeah, with the fact that Meyer is also 5'6", they can probably clear out Meyer and clear out Desert as well, and then I'm sure one of these runners will check Pyramid very relatively soon.
Yeah, that would not surprise me at all. So Yagamoth grabbing an early big key and then is just rolling straight over to Vidi. I imagine that we are going to get a clear of the rest of Meyer if Vidi does not come up with the goods here momentarily.
Like, Yaga did set up Spooky. We're gonna find out here in the next screen whether he did or not.
It's Yaga. Answer is probably yes. And yeah, actually, you don't need that. There you go.
That's right, because he ended up finding the big key early, so he ended up switching. We can see muscle memory here from our runners. Yeah, really nice basement clear there from Yaga, despite the fact that he temporarily forgot that he didn't have to hit the switch.
And Yaga is going to be happy for that cape here, because without any bow, it is yeah, Vidi can be a little bit scary on 5 remaining hearts.
Yeah, certainly a lot of runners feel pretty comfortable doing NMG strats here with Temper Sword, but you know, if you have the cape, as you said, and half magic, you know, why not just slash your way through?
Well, there's also a situation when you walk into Vidi, you do have a couple more than 5 hearts at the very least. So.
Yeah. Alright, looks like Vitri has just dropped a compass for us, but you know, certainly a really nice clear there by Yaga. He's very happy with that crystal, but it looks like we are still going to have to find probably 2 more items in Meyer. Hopefully it won't be part of the vanilla key chest.
You're the one who said it.
I'm hoping for good things here, right? You know, these guys got early boots, you know, and they just ended up picking up the flute. They have the hook shot. I'm really hoping this is going to be a fast seed for them.
And Yaga not electing to go back into Meyer. So this is interesting, because AceZer0 is clearing, or is at least going to be, you know, making an attempt at clearing some other stuff for Meyer. Is going to have a little bit of difficulty with the absolutely 0 magic that he currently has. So might have to go into that southern room and grab some magic and then come back, backtrack a little bit. But it does look like AceZer0 is going to keep going through here, where Yaga decided not to. So that is kind of an interesting divergence there. And honestly, I kind of fear for Yaga, because this seed, not this seed, but this particular version is Meyer tends to be loaded much more than it should be, in my opinion.
Yeah, despite the fact that there are only 2 items in Meyer, there is seemingly lots of progression often. Oh, that was an unfortunate beetle. I kind of dashed there on Freddeh's side. Have to kind of try and start over. But kind of with the strategy, though, you know, the fact that maybe in this case they want to try and prioritize Pyramid Fairy as opposed to seeing what is in Meyer itself. It's a really nice Lambo fight there by Yagamoth.
That's a fair point, and with one of those items being seen as the piece of heart here, we should see the second one right here for AceZer0. So yeah, if neither of them choose to do anything with Meyer, that will end up being a good choice. AceZer0 actually not completing the dungeon. That's kind of interesting.
Yeah, actually, so I know the chat had brought this up earlier, that Yaga ended up finding the Kingdom of Samaria. It looks like both on Hitsu and Ace said they have not found it yet. I'm actually quite curious to know where that ended up, where that cane ended up was hiding.
Yeah, that's a good call. I actually completely missed that they hadn't grabbed that. And it looks like Yaga's the only one who has grabbed it of the 4 runners. So I'm not sure where it was either. Okay,
so we have some confirmation here, both in chat and Hitsu's side, that I did see him quick swap right through that King of Samaria. So they're gonna be able to complete, at least Ace is gonna be able to complete Meyer after this.
Yeah, but that's one of the worst feelings in co-op when you're doing a dungeon that you can't complete and then your buddy is running through another dungeon and finds the item you need. It's like, all right, I'm right behind you.
Yeah, we can certainly see this is somewhat more of a consequence. You know, the fact that both Hitsu and Ace are in ice kind of together kind of indicates that there's a little bit more of a, you know, a linearity to the scene.
Okay, so I just saw the big key for pod being in the harmless hellway. So pretty far into the back, that might lead our runners to grab silvers out of the big chest here in pod. I don't know how much that's going to change things, but it's not going to be a quick pod regardless of how you swing it. Freddeh's so used to dark rooms here, he kind of got lost for a second.
Sometimes I wonder how well these runners do in the dark versus like they have the lamp cone.
I feel like for a lot of them, there's not much difference.
Alright, see confirmation on Freddeh's side that he indeed ended up picking up the silver arrows. Yeah, so I guess with hammer, with silvers, with butter sword, with the lamp, with I don't know what else Freddeh needs in order to complete pot here.
Yeah, the only thing we're missing at this point is our Bombos medallion and our ice rod. Both of which required for TR, so good luck!
Yeah, you know, and as you mentioned before, you know, normally when we say, you know, the ice rod and bombos can be anywhere, it really actually can be anywhere except TR. And that includes it can be in GT because TR is a pendant.
Yep, this is going to be one of those all dungeon seeds. Well, I mean, it might not be. I guess we could still find it somewhere. Actually, what have our runners not completed between all of them? Actually, I'm fairly certain that Bombos is in GT, just mathematically at this point, at the very least. Ice Rod could still be sitting in TR, as is, but we're not going to find Bombos there.
Does kind of make you wonder, right? So let's just think that Bombos is actually in GT. Do you keep going? Like in the basement, let's say? Or do you kind of mirror out and try and hope that the ice rod is in Turtle Rock?
Honestly, I think that would depend. I want to say that personally, and I can't speak from a co-op perspective because that would depend entirely upon where my teammate was. But if I was just rolling through GT and I found Bombos, I would. I don't know. I guess that would depend upon where I found it and where I found the big key, because I would at the very least find those two things before mirroring out. But if I found one of them late, let's say behind Ice Armos or in Tile Room, God forbid, I would probably mirror out and go take a shot at Ice Rod sitting in TR over Ice Rod in the top of GT. That's my personal opinion. I don't know if our runners would agree with that, or even if that's an intelligent decision to make. But that's probably where my brain would go.
Yeah, we're definitely gonna find out based on, I guess, like where that Bombos medallion and the ice rod is. You know, I guess always the hope is, right, that you find ice rod before Bombos. Because once you find the ice rod, you are super happy, and you just have to go find Bombos, and then you are in go mode. As opposed to you find Bombos, and then, as you said, now you have to make these kind of like somewhat more difficult decisions, depending on where you end up finding it.
Exactly. If Bombos is your go mode, you are under no circumstance double dipping TR. It's not possible, because, you know, you already have everything declared at that point. But if Ice Rod is your go mode, then yeah, that double dip starts to become a possibility.
Freddeh, at the back of Eastern, gonna put those silvers to good use here. As soon as he gets past the Stalfos room.
Right. Nice hookshot use over there by AceZer0. Hookshotting through the fire bar. Makes things a little bit easier.
Oh, we see on Yagamoth's side Almost getting that quick zero cycle. Really nicely done from some progress. Looks like Argus just got a little bit too close to him, which is a little bit unfortunate. I mean, that tech is actually quite difficult because it involves that you have to execute very well, and you also have some good RNG so that Argus doesn't come to you too closely.
Yeah, it's a really weird situation. You basically have to hold your sword out, and then while you're doing that, you have to do a hook dash, and then for every hook shot afterwards, you have to time it. It's not perfect timing, but the window is relatively tight, and then you have to just keep hitting the hook shot button to continuously hook shot the puffs. And the hook dash setup allows you to do poke damage that's the same class as your sword, which is why Yagamoth was able to kill those puffs with a single poke of a tempered sword. That would normally do master sword damage, which would not do enough, but given the hook shot dash glitch, he was able to pull it off. It's really, really difficult. I've tried it, and I think the farthest I've gotten is like 4 or 5 puffs, and it felt really, really good just to get that far. So but hey, Pyramid Fairy.
Yeah, looks like, oh no, Yaga ended up getting hit. I was gonna say, he was quite on his way to do a really nice execution to get the big bomb over the pyramid. So he first took some damage when he first got out of the bomb jump, which kind of let him dash. And then I think he was trying to do the bomb too, but unfortunately he got hit by a rampant bomb here by the Hinox, so he couldn't actually do it.
Is it called a snipe if you get hit by a bomb, or should I use a different verb?
It's probably a snipe. I guess a snipe just means that you kind of got waylaid, right? As opposed to like a specific thing that you got waylaid by.
That's fair. It just feels somewhat inappropriate to call it a snipe, given that it was more of a mortar.
Yeah, we did see some really nice execution there on Yaga to recover, where he did hook speed to try and get on the stairs there. Unfortunately, Pyramid Fairy just having, what, 55 rupees? But at least he's got the peace of mind to clear those checks. Really solid execution in general from all 4 runners. It's sometimes kind of difficult to kind of appreciate like how good their execution are for these 4 runners, but it is really like on point today. Hitsu getting that hammer jump, for example, picking up the silvers very quickly.
Yeah, and that's one thing that'll save you a bunch of time, especially because he did have to go into the Harmless Hellway to grab the big key. So that ended up not really wasting any time. Probably lost maybe 10, 15 seconds to get in those silvers. Definitely going to make up time in the long run, especially with Vidi not being completed yet.
I think to some extent, these guys realize that their opponents are also very, very good runners, so they probably are, more focused than normal to try and put up a good show.
Oh yeah, with the Invitational League, there is no such thing as a free lunch. Every single game, you are going to get some very, very good people coming after you at just 100 miles an hour. So these guys are going to be doing their best every single week because they have to if they're going to be successful at all.
Yeah, I think at this point, it looks like our runners are kind of retracing each other's steps, somewhat finally, I guess. The fact that they were able to explore, kind of so much. Looks like Ace is going to finish up what he can in Thieves Town. We already did see him kind of skipping over things, probably because Hitsu told him that he didn't need to end up doing, let's say, the vanilla big chest in Thieves Town. And Hitsu here is in pod. He's going to be able to take care of Hollister pretty quickly here with silver arrows.
Yeah, and while they're basically running over each other's steps and skipping a bunch of chests and grabbing only the ones they need, go ahead and give these guys a follow. Like, they are insane. They are really, really good at this game, and not only the teamwork that's required to get this done, but also just the base execution they are having to do, as well as trying to route themselves and each other. It's a lot of stuff to think about. So shout out to these runners for really putting on a great show. Now, if we could just find Bombos and the Ice Rod.
Yeah, These guys are making really good progress, though, in order to kind of clear out and finish these dungeons, right? The fact that they had so much exploration early on kind of meant that they didn't probably prioritize kind of clearing dungeons as much as just making sure that they're covering like all of their out-of-the-way checks, or making sure they're not, they're just being very thorough. But now the fact that they have all their items, they know where most of the things are. I mean, they could just basically almost like go mode these dungeons, right?
Yeah, and it's going to be interesting. Like, I mean, at this point, I have no idea who's ahead, if I'm being perfectly honest. It looks like AceZer0 has the most stuff done in terms of dungeons themselves, but in terms of just having Desert, Mire, and Swamp left. But it's a toss-up, because Yagamoth on the other side only has to finish Pod here and then do Eastern. So I guess Yagamoth is probably going to be the first one into GT. They also... Oh, no, wait, they did check Spike Cave. Never mind. I'm sitting here trying to think of anything else that could have been skipped.
Yeah, I was actually just trying to think of the same thing. The fact that Yaga and Freddeh, and Ace and Hitsu are kind of at this point clearing up dungeons and not actually making any additional checks kind of indicates to me that these guys have pretty much cleared what they can, like not basically outside of GT at this point. So seems like at least this is kind of like a nice path of or routing of all dungeons, is that at least on Freddeh's side, right, he's going to finish Desert, he's going to finish Swamp and Thieves Town, finish up Mire, and then he's going to be able to do TR into GT. Oh, sorry, he's going to get up to GT, and then hopefully finish Turtle Rock, and then go back, finish GT, do AGA 1, and then go beat Ganon.
Right. The really interesting, as somehow Yagamoth dodges that fireball. I have no idea how that happened, but I mean, whatever. It was awesome to watch. The really interesting routing decision that may or may not occur here is going to be dependent upon what they find in GT and when. Because like you said before, if they do manage to grab that ice rod first, no big deal. Just find Bombos, go clear TR, keep it moving. But if they find Bombos before they find that ice rod, that's when the decision starts being made. And it may not be a big deal. It may be a situation where both teams decide to do the same thing, where either both runners of both teams will make the same choice, or they'll split the runners. One person will go do TR, one person will not. But that's where the fun is going to come in. And the really cool part is that I'll bet you right now, while they're running through these dungeons, other than, going over their notes to figure out where big keys are and where other items of interest, be it full hearts or half magic or something, is going to be along the way, that's what they're discussing. If we do find Bombos first, are we going in TR? Or are we going to assume that Ice Rod is also in GT and then just go ahead and clear GT? Because those last 4 checks, it makes pretty much no sense to clear to do those last 4 checks up top of GT and then mirror out. That's a lot of time lost. I'm pretty sure at that point it would be quicker just to climb the mountain again and go do TR.
Does kind of make you wonder, or I think in this case, so normally, we look at to try and guess what the GT big key is. Everyone's kind of hoping it's always going to be, on the lower side, right? Maybe it's in Hope Room, maybe it's on the Torch. If it happens to be that GT big key is in Tile Room or one of the later checks, it just kind of solves some of their problems for them too, right? It's like free checks, basically, because you're still looking for the big key at that point.
That's a fair point. It also would depend on where they do find either their TR progression, and where they find the GT big key. Yagamoth saving about a quarter second by doing the hookshot dash there on the stairs, but that quarter second might matter.
He certainly is the most farthest ahead out of our 4 runners. Not gonna give up that free butter sword, of course.
Of course not.
We also see Hitsu here in Mire Basement, executing Spooky really well. Certainly not unexpected from somebody of his caliber.
Alright, so as Yagamoth is going to be, unless I'm severely mistaken here, the first person rolling into GT, we do have a fun game we like to play. And I'm not sure the full extent of that game, because right now there are 3 items we're looking for as opposed to just 1. Ugh. You gotta love all dungeons.
Yeah, I think we're still guessing for the big key itself, right?
Oh yeah, we're definitely gonna be guessing for the big key, but you know, that Bombos and Ice Rod location could be just as amusing. We'll say it that way. I also don't know if Freddeh and Yagamoth have checked everything between them, so I'm not sure that Yagamoth is going to be immediately doing GT. I guess he is, but I'm not positive on it, which is why.
Yeah, I'm actually just trying to think of anything else that they have, like, not on the mountain, and I kind of want to say that they're... Unfortunately, yeah, I just got dead rock there. But I want to say that at least on the Sexy Ganon side, there is nothing else of note for them to explore.
Yeah, so speaking of, there are 22 locations in the basement of GT. One of them contains the big key. So go ahead and get your guesses in chat, 1 through 22. Where is that big key going to be located? Please, no guesses over 22, no guesses below 1. No fractions, no decimals, etc., etc. No irrational numbers or unreal numbers. Let's keep it to whole numbers in between 1 and 22. Okay, that being said, I'm sure someone now, in response to what I've said, is going to go ahead and pepper the chat with some using things like pi or e. Anyways, Clear Mouse, what is your guess for that big key?
I was going to say I. But I guess you told me no irrationals.
See, and that's why I said no unreal numbers specifically, because I knew somebody was going to go ahead and do that. But I did manage to stay 1 step ahead of you. So, GT Big Key, lay it on me. Where is it?
I would actually prefer something on the later side. So I'm going to say, I think 18 is vanilla?
17 is vanilla. If
17?
they don't,
okay.
if they go right side to Hope Room and then go full left. All right, I'm going to make things really fun. I'm going to say 2.
2.
Give me a God GT, because I want to watch everyone's brains just turn.
I can't figure out if you're being helpful or or devilish here, Hammer.
I want Bombos in the first chest and the big key in the second one. I want things that make you go,
Alright, moment of truth is upon us. Yaga's trying Hope Chest, or Hope Room, small key in the first one, and a piece of heart. So he can keep going.
Yep, and it looks like he is going to choose to do so. So at this point, your if you want vanilla, it's going to be 21. Unless he goes full right, which he might. I haven't seen someone do full right in a very long time, but you know, there's a first time for everything in a couple of years, and it would be interesting to see Yagamoth go from here directly to... But it looks like that's not going to happen with that mirror on. Yeah, baby!
Almost! Alright, the search continues. So they haven't found the big key yet, so he's going to keep certainly going in GT until he finds it. But now it all really depends on where that ice rod is. Hitsu, surprisingly far, very closely behind Yaga, much closer than I initially realized. He's also going to go head into GT here. Let's see if he ends up finding things earlier than Yaga.
Well, at this point, Yaga's ahead and has checked everything on the right-hand side, so I'm fairly certain Yaga's still going to be the first person to find anything else that needs to be found in GT, unless Hitsuyan grabs the big key and goes, you know, somewhere else with it.
Yeah, it looks like Hitsu was actually just far enough behind. And he's going to do full right, looks like anyway, so he's just basically, at this point, as you said, just following Yaga's footsteps. Nothing in Salva's room so far. Slightly displaced friend mail for Yaga. I don't think they need anything else for them. You have half magic, red mail, butter sword, silvers. I'm sure they got a bottle or two over there or something for potions.
Yeah, at the very least, they're sitting on that red goo from the pyramid ledge, because I want to say that just about everybody picked that up.
For sure, Yaga picked it up because he was over there and we were actively watching, but we're gonna see.
AceZer0 getting like the Dead Rock duo there. That was a terrible set of RNG. And it's just, yeah, those Dead Rocks are just letting him have it, poor guy.
Duos are tracker. Please don't speak ill about him ever.
Oh yeah, speaking of, shout out to our trackers, doing a great job keeping up with stuff through the initial difficulties we were having, and then from then on. So, GG's, you guys are awesome. Uh-oh. How about Potter for Ice Rod?
Oh man, I forgot about Magic Bat. Dude, that would be so mean. You have to literally go back to GT, find the powder, go back down and get check Magic Bat, and then get Ice Rod. Go back up.
Look, I'm just gonna go ahead and say it. So just so you and our trackers and chat are all on the same page. When the runners come in here, no one speaks a word of the fact that I called this. No one speaks a word of it. None of you say anything. I don't need this on me.
We're getting awfully close to vanilla big key chest here.
That'd be a pretty funny spot for the Ice Rod behind Ice Armos, I'm not gonna lie.
Alright, 4 more checks here left in GT basement. There's our big key. Alright, this is gonna be a decision point here for Yaga. Is he gonna go out? Is he gonna climb? Is he gonna do tile room? He's gonna do tile room, right?
Well, I mean, you're gonna do the big chest first. Because it's right here. FYI, our big key was 20. And speaking of 20, there's one of those in the big chest. Alright, so Yaga skipping tile room. Meanwhile, AceZer0 doing it. So this will be interesting. If this is Ice Rod, oh boy.
Yeah, I think it makes a lot of sense actually for Yaga to skip tile room because you know, Freddeh is gonna come right up and do GT as well, right? The fact that he, you know, if the Ice Rod is there, I guess they'll have to go back, but Freddeh will be able to have an opportunity to check that. As we can actually see on AceZer0's side, you know, like he's doing tile room first, whereas Hitsu is kind of making a more traditional play. He's gonna find his big key pretty soon here. Right,
that's a good point. And if Hitsu, well, since they do know at this point between them that the big key is sitting behind Ice Armos, as we get a small key off of there.
Oh, yeah, actually, maybe I should just take everything that I said back. No, if Yaga, most likely, is actually counting his keys and items, he might have actually just realized that tile room has a small key.
Well, you're not going to know that for sure, because you could still be sitting on a small key upstairs.
Oh, that's right, that's right.
Now, I will be the first to admit I'm not super familiar with GT key logic, but I'm fairly certain it was not guaranteed that that was going to be a small key. Please, someone correct me if I am wrong.
Was kind of curious to see what AceZer0 was doing, I guess on the right side of GT, because it looked like he was having a bit of
oh no. Hitsuyan is making the TR play. Oh boy.
Wow. Alright, Hitsu. I hope your luck is with you. Honestly, if anybody did this out of the 4, Hitsu probably would have been my first choice.
So honestly, given where the teams are right now, this isn't a terrible idea because so right now for Yagamoth and Freddeh, excuse me, goodness gracious, by the time Freddeh gets over to GT, Yagamoth is going to have a pretty good idea about whether or not the Ice Rod is sitting in here, and especially since Freddeh is going to have to grab that Bombos medallion. So it's not really going to be a big deal. If it's not here, Freddeh can very easily grab that big key and then just turn around and go grab the Ice Rod out of TR without having lost any time. Whereas for Hitsuyan and AceZer0, they're a bit closer in time, and it's a bit more of a hairy kind of guess. Like, do we do this? Do we not? All right, rupees and a map. We have 2 chests left. Oof. As AceZer0 gets bonked by a beetle.
Yeah, the only time really these executions. Oh, what happened? happened? Wait, did he find the ice rod?
Yep, pre-mold dorm chest.
Oh my gosh.
And that gives the sexy Ganons a huge advantage because Freddeh is not under any circumstances going to be going into TR at this point. Not before clearing GT at the very least.
Well, at least the good news is that most likely Ace is going to climb GT right after this. So they're at least going to know, like, relatively sooner that the ice rod is actually in fact in GT.
That's a fair point, but Hitsuyan is going to spend a decent amount of time.
So as soon as either Hitsu finishes Laser Bridge and doesn't find the ice rod, or Ace in this case climbs far enough to tell him that the ice rod is there in pre-Moldom chest, Hitsu is going to mirror out, and these guys are probably going to finish, Ace and Hitsu, going to finish a lot closer than they probably wanted to at this point. So it's still, well, yeah, I guess in this case for Freddeh, at this point, yeah, like they're just in like pure go mode at this point.
Yes, having knowledge of that ice rod puts them in a much better situation. Though, okay, so given the way things are, if Hitsuyan makes it far enough or just decides to keep going, Hitsuyan could use the safety door. No, never mind, because Hitsuyan's not going to be able to get back to GT, I don't think. Or maybe he would? I don't know, that's kind of convoluted. I'm not super great with knowing how to save the mirror portal. But Hitsuyan might be able to save that mirror portal, which would make it much closer. Alright, so some people in chat who are much more knowledgeable about this stuff than I am telling me that we can save the portal, which does make it a bit closer. AceZer0 sitting on 3 arrows, so that is why we are attempting to get mimic clips here.
This is quite the unexpected development. I guess it looks like, according to at least Ace and our trackers, that he ended up deciding not to do left side to get the second bow, or silvers in this case. I think he was the one who found it in pod.
Yep, and this is a situation where you were probably really wishing you had those silvers.
At least today I learned that Ace can mimic clip. There's one of them. Oh, and there goes the other. Really nice.
I was going to say, don't say that before Ace is mimic clipped. Ace might not know that Ace can mimic clip right now, so you might want to hold that one a couple seconds. And with the arrows being despawned, we are going to get to see it again.
Oh, wow. This is going to be much harder, unfortunately, because, at least in the first room, you didn't have 2 pesky BMOs trying to, constantly kill you.
So here's the interesting part. If you mimic clip in that first room, the BMOs in the second room don't know to target you. So you were actually completely safe. As you can see, that they've both done 1 cycle.
Oh, that is actually true.
Now,
I totally forgot about that. You're right.
And now if something happens in the first room and you beat those 2, you kill them both normally, then yes, this would be very problematic.
Alright, meanwhile, as we were kind of fixated on AceZer0's excellent mimic clipping skills there, Yagamoth has already made it up to the top of Aga Tower. With red mail, gold sword, silvers, didn't really expect, I think, too much opposition, but now we are subject to, basically, RNG at this point. Hopefully we don't get too many blue balls.
So, once Aga is defeated, will it become Yaga Tower?
Maybe Moth Tower, how's that?
I feel like Yaga Tower rolls off the tongue a little better. And yeah, Hitsuyan realizing that there is in fact no ice rod here. And yep, it is time to attempt to save a portal, I believe. Yeah, and for those in chat who are asking, the ice rod was sitting in the Primo dorm chest, because of course it was. Oh, Hitsuyan is going to go turn in that powder.
we can say that Hitsu was thorough.
We're laughing because we feel bad. Cane of Burn? No, we already got that. How about a bottle?
How many shields have we seen? Oh,
hey!
well, there's one.
Burn the witch!
Was I hoping for a fast seed? This is a fast seed, right? At least Hitsu found out that there was no ice rod in Turtle Rock, as opposed to being told that, hey, the ice rod is here in GT. I don't know, at least, like, from my perspective, like, personally, I would rather find out for myself and have somebody else tell me.
Yeah, I guess that's fair. Oh, they never checked Pyramid Fairy, so Hitsuyan oaf.
Oh, wow. Oh, that's right, yeah, they haven't actually done some of these super out-of-the-way overworld checks. I did forget about that.
So the lack of arrows on AceZero's side that made those Mimic Rooms take quite a bit longer is really taking its toll at this point.
Yeah, you're absolutely correct, because, you know, the longer that Ace can't confirm that the ice rod is in GT, the longer Hitsu is going to delay his mountain climb.
Well, I mean, I'm really not sure that they have anything else to check after this. Unless they didn't do Catfish, I guess, but I feel like one of them did.
Right now it's a race on Ace's side versus Hitsu's side. Who's going to basically figure out where the ice rod is, or where the ice rod isn't.
Well, Hitsuyan's has AceZer0 is pretty much out of magic at this point too. Goodness gracious, it is. It's become an example in resource management. GT,
you know, were you speculating about Catfish? This is maybe where Hitsu is going to be on his way to. I don't think he's quite going to make it to Catfish though before Ace picks up the ice rod.
Well, I really hope not, unless this room takes much longer.
I'm so sorry, Ace. I didn't mean to delay that for too much longer. Alright, there is Gomo there for AceZer0 picking up the ice rod.
And you could see immediately the moment that Hitsuyan was told, because that's when the mirror came.
Yeah. Alright, well, so now Hitsu at least knows where the ice rod is. Unfortunately, man, luck for these Death Rocks is just not on their side. I'm sure Hitsu is also not feeling super well at the fact that, you know, Ace had just kind of told him where the ice rod is. So hopefully he's not too much on tilt.
Yeah, but it does not feel good when you basically last location an ice rod for Pendant Turtle Rock in an all-dungeon seed.
Yeah, meanwhile, it looks like Sexy Yanna's, Freddeh, and Yagamoth are making, like, really good progress. Freddeh is almost up all the way to the top of the Aga Tower. Yagamoth is making his basic go mode through his way through Turtle Rock, hoping that he can skip Laser Bridge. I wasn't actually paying attention on his side when he was here earlier where the set of small keys were. So hopefully he can skip Laser Bridge.
Yeah, I was not either. Unfortunately, I was distracted by other things, but I believe he's going to have to go into Laser Bridge. I want to say like the second or third chest has a small key. I'm not positive on that, though.
I would actually be kind of curious to know what would have happened in terms of results if Hitsu actually decided to climb, as opposed to, you know, leave immediately and go to TR. Like, it would have certainly been a lot closer race. I don't actually know if it would still have made a difference.
Yeah, Because,
I mean, the race was pretty close, right? Much closer than I initially thought. It was before everybody kind of, like, made their way to GT, but, you know, the fact that Hitsu decided to kind of mirror out and try his luck with TR first kind of just made the gap here a bit more unpalatable.
Honestly, as heartbreaking as it is to say, I think that We Are the Imposters would have had the edge just because Freddeh was so far behind. Freddeh was like a solid dungeon and a half, 2 dungeons behind. And Yagamoth had basically full cleared GT before Freddeh even got up there.
Yeah, that's actually a good point. Yeah, because yeah, as you said, Ace and Hitsu were actually pretty close, and just in terms of the time gap, and the gap between Hitsu and Yaga was smaller than the gap. Sorry, the gap between Freddeh and Ace was smaller than the gap between Freddeh and Yaga and Hitsu. Go.
Yeah.
Yeah. Alright, unfortunately, it looks like we couldn't avoid laser push, but luckily that first small key was small key was just in that first chest. With the cape, half magic, Yaga just has to make his way to Trinex, and with Gold Sword, I don't really foresee any real issues here taking down Trinex.
Yeah, no, it shouldn't really be an issue, hopefully, at this point. I don't really want to say too much because, you know, commentators curse and all that, but...
Yeah, and the fact that there is quick soft should make this fight go even faster. Right, looks like Yaga is actually going to go for Vector Stress. Hopefully he can get the 0 cycle.
I think we're a little past hoping, Clear Mouse.
Sorry. As soon as I finish that sentence, you know, Trinex is pretty much down for phase 1.
Do you want to cook a turtle?
All those textbook fight. They're pretty much textbook fight. I'm not sure if there's anything else I could have asked for in that fight. So with that, that is our last pendant. And 10 bombs for good measure. Now Yagamoth, all he has to do is mirror out, go to the pyramid, and we're going. Oh no, he just needs to save quit, and then we're gonna go fight Ganon.
Let's go pull ped. Wait.
Yeah, because Yaga needs what 20 more rupees to go on top of his 1,236.
Hey, I don't know. That might come in handy. Ganon Falls Earthing. And Hitsuyan cutting it close with... Oh, that's a really unfortunate fall there. Ganon just giving us a very typical, I am not going to give you the thing that I have, you will die. And I don't mean to be presumptuous, but if I had to place a bet between Yagamoth and Ganon, I know where I'm putting my money, and it's not Ganon.
We did see some really nice dash shots there on Yaga's side to fight Ganon, phase 1 and 2. Certainly with Gold Sword, does make things a little bit faster. It's already on phase 3. He's got Silvers out. Doesn't even need Torch Glitch, but I'm sure he can get it if he wants it. Meanwhile, Moldorm is not quite cooperating for Hitsu, but luckily he can get it out in the second shot.
Yes, the most terrifying boss in all of ALTTPR, Mothydorm.
Alright, really nice there, phase 4 on Yaga's side. He just needs to wait for this fanfare, cross this 1x3 bridge, and he will be the first of our 4 runners here to defeat this seed.
Yep, Yagamoth has finished in first place with an official race time GG time of 1 hour, 31 minutes, and 43 seconds.
I'm sure Yaga is quite relieved that the seed is over for him. So now he just gets to sit back and relax and watch his teammate finish up the seed.
Yep, and it's probably going to feel really, really good to take a glance over at the screen here and realize that your teammate is in second place of 4.
Yeah, certainly at this point, this is going to be the Sexy Ganon's race to lose. I mean, I guess pretty terrible things could happen on Freddie's side, but yeah, so at least it certainly looks like because Freddie's already, midway through, most of the way through Turtle Rock, and Ace is just getting into Turtle Rock, and Hitsu still has Turtle Rock to go in addition to Aga Tower. It certainly looks like a really nice second place for Team Sexy for Freddie, and first place overall finish for Sexy Ganon's.
Yeah, at the end of it, Hitsuyan made a gamble, and that gamble was incorrect.
You know, I was at the beginning of this race, I was thinking of like, you know, this is all dungeons, like, how much room is there for people to gamble? Because, you know, you kind of have to do everything, right? You're pretty much going to full clear, you know, and be thorough for wherever you go, and this answers my question.
Honestly, for all dungeons, the thing that you want to be able to do really early is pull the ped. If you can pull the ped really early in an all dungeons race, you're fine, because then you know that unless it's key sanity or something, you're going to stroll into GT, and you're going to need the GT big key. And nothing but the GT big key unless you need a sword, and that would be terrible. But we're going to ignore that possibility. So that's not bad. Like, for a normal seed, you would rather be able to just never, ever pull ped. Because if you can't pull ped, then there can't be anything there, and you're fine. But for all dungeons, if you could get away with being able to pull ped really, really early, then you don't have to worry about having to look through GT for something.
Yeah, if only these guys had found Ice Rod, or the Ice Rod was placed before Bombos, but I don't think we would have basically gone through the last like 15 minutes of the seed.
Yeah, that would have been really interesting if the locations had been switched, and instead Ice Rod was sitting behind... where do they find Bombos? In, like, Stelphos room, I think? If Ice Rod were sitting in Stelphos room or in... I don't remember, it was somewhere, maybe random room. And then Bombos was up the climb. That would have made it a much more straightforward race than it ended up being.
Yeah. Alright, looks like Freddeh is finishing up Trinex. Unfortunately, didn't quite get the 0 cycle, even though he did backdoor strats, but you know, timing can be a little bit odd on sometimes on these fights.
Well, Freddeh is also sitting on 3.5 hearts and a blue mail, so I think the main concern here is not getting the dead on Trinex cycle.
Certainly, he doesn't know that he has quite the buffer in this case. He could probably die to Trinex like multiple times at this point and still win.
Yeah, that's fair.
Alright, picking up his last pendant. You see everything on the tracker here is lit up. He just needs to save and quit, just like Yaga, and go fight Ganon.
Yeah, and between our runners, actually I think the only thing that we didn't see on any of our runner side was the red meringue, which must have been somewhere truly awful. Wait, red meringue had to be validation chest, or had to be post Moldorm chest, didn't it?
Yeah, I was gonna say, I guess I don't remember if Yaga ended up opening that. I certainly did not see Freddeh opening that.
I literally think that's the only chest in the game we didn't see opened.
Thank you, chat.
Red meringue was checkerboard.
And yeah, and thank you, our trackers, for helping us out here.
Okay, so we saw it, just nobody picked it up. That makes sense too.
Yeah, I guess saving and quitting actually gives him a bit of a health refill, which I didn't actually realize, because he was on, what, 3 hearts after he defeat Trinex? And now he's up to 7. Or he was up to 7. Oh wow, super close Ganon. Oh, that was a really, really nice phase 4. Holy cow. Freddeh showing,
keep your Ganons close and your silvers closer, I guess. Really nice triple there.
Alright, get your GGs out here. In chat for Freddeh finishing in 2nd place with, looks like a time of 1 hour, 37 minutes, and 2 seconds. Because, in this case, Sexy Ganons, Yaga finished 1st, and Freddeh finished 2nd, they are our official winner for this co-op match between Sexy Ganons and We Are the Imposters.
And I think if We Are the Imposters were more of a starch team, they could be We Are the Impostas. I think that might be my last pun for the day.
Alright, looks like, let's see if we can get some of our runners here in for an interview. Hopefully they can join us relatively soon. Have them give us their thoughts on how they ended up playing out the seed.
And we are joined in the booth by Freddeh. GG.
GG's, Freddeh.
GG's.
So, how about how about that ice rod?
How about that seed?
How about not?
It was, yeah. Sounds like it was just the call of going through Turtle Rock. I was kind of looking at the VOD a bit, and looks like it was actually really close until that decision happened. But yeah, it was definitely a fun spot. We were pretty much at some point we're like, okay, Turtle Rock can have, or Bombos and Ice Rock can be in GT. So Yagamoth just started going straight through dungeons. Like, I don't know if you guys saw that he just completely bypassed all of Mire. So I checked that out while I was there just in case. But outside of that, it was just heading up the mountain as fast as he could, and I would catch up with what I could. Knowing Mimic Clip would have been a huge boost in that run, which I didn't. Did one of them do a Mimic Clip through Pod early, or did they find the bow in Swamp first?
Yeah, well, I don't think you needed to do Mimic Clip to find the bow in
that's
Pod.
True.
Bottle. No, I don't think you had to go right side because the big key. Yeah, it wasn't Bowlock, and the big key was over there. So
it was Bowlock. The first chest was map.
Yeah, then it must have been a potion glitch because it wasn't a.
Yeah, you can potion glitch, but I didn't go by pyramid first, so that makes sense.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah, I think we saw Ace do a potion glitch, and then by the time the Hitsu got to Pod, he had already done Swamp, so he had the bow.
Right. Oh, that would be why Ace doesn't have, because left side Swamp's a lot longer to get to than the big chest of Pod.
Yeah, speaking of Mimic Clips, though, AceZer0 did not have enough arrows. Only had 3 arrows going into the first Mimic room. So did a Mimic Clip there, and then went to pick up the arrows in the second room, and would you guess what they did?
Didn't despawn?
They despawned. So then he Mimic Clipped the second room as well. So there were some Mimic Clips in the seed, but not where you were anticipating.
Fair enough.
I would like to know how exactly what the conditions are for those arrows to not spawn, because that's pretty annoying, and I know that all too well.
Yeah, and it is weird because I have gone in there before with like 3 arrows into the second room, and I've killed one of the mimics, and then been like, okay, well, there's no mimic. I'm missing a mimic, right? So I should be able to definitely get those arrows, lift up the pot to see nothing, and be like, okay, well, I was wrong. But yeah, so essentially what happened is that AceZer0 and Hitsuyan were much closer than you two were, and Hitsuyan grabbed Bombos, and then grabbed the big key, and then said heck it, and went to go do TR. And that obviously was not the correct call.
Yeah. Basically, our idea was here that worst case scenario, I will have to climb back up Duff Mountain in order to get to Turtle Rock, which is on average a much slower or less time loss than having to climb Ganon's Tower and then come back over to Turtle Rock in order to get the ice rod and such. So on average, just clearing Ganon's Tower once you're there would just kind of work out in your favor.
Yeah, it's definitely the safer play because, I mean, like you said, you're going from, reclimbing the mountain is probably a 1.5, maybe 2 minute loss, but clearing all of TR and then not finding the ice rod and then having to do that again, that's going to cost you a heck of a lot more time than that.
Indeed. I think if Freddeh would have been closer to me to Ganon's Tower, we would have sent him just do Tile Room, which I skipped initially, and then also clear Ganon's Tower before doing anything else, because it could have also, from our perspective, been Powder, because we didn't fake Powder.
Yeah, that is fair. No one actually faked Powder, so that was another possibility that Hitsuyan also checked.
Yeah.
Oh, did he also check Powder?
It was a thing I would have done early.
Oh yeah, I was sorry. I was just gonna say that the fact that Ace were slightly delayed, basically in getting to the ice rod because just ended up getting hit one way or another. Hitsu had a little bit more extra time on his hands, so he did Pyramid Fairy. He went to go check the powder. He was on his way to Catfish before he found out the news that ice rod was in fact indeed in TR and in GT.
Yeah, and the fact that AceZer0 did have to do those mimic clips just made it take longer for Hitsuyan to realize that Ice Rod was in fact in GT. So Hitsuyan ended up doing the Pyramid Fairy, which they hadn't done before, and then was heading up towards Catfish to do, I'm pretty sure, the last check in the game. But thankfully, Ice Rod was found.
He missed out on a fairy. It was a nice fairy up there. I did that real early after getting locked out of pod because I did Pyramid before or after pod. Like a silly person.
AceZer0, thank you for joining us in the booth. GG, my friend.
Hey, thanks. GG to Sexy Ganons.
GG, guys.
So yeah, how about that seed?
It wasn't too bad. I like getting all the swords all in a big pile, so I didn't have to worry about any other dungeons.
Yeah.
Or any fights.
It was pretty funny. He went up there about the same time I was finally clearing Eastern, and it was like, okay, well, I found a sword in Eastern finally. He's like, well, I found 2 in Super Bunny. Oh wait, here's the 3rd one over here too.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So that's the rest of them.
Yeah. I wish the PCU would have been more helpful in pod to get that bow. It didn't really end up saving that much time since Hitsu got his bow out of Swamp anyway, and then it ended up being efficient to get the silvers for him, but for me it wasn't efficient to get silvers, so that slowed me down as well for like Vitreous and Ganon.
Yeah, we had our Yagamoth was already on over to grab his bow out of Swamp as well when I was clearing pot out and found the 2nd bow, so we both got silvers.
Hitsuyan, GG, my friend.
Guys.
GG's Hitsu.
So Rando's gonna rando, huh?
Of course. But I had a really big mistake in this seed in GT. When I went out, I think that was the worst play you can do. Because upper GT was to do 100% anyway.
So I guess like what made you want to try your luck at TR at that point?
Now I completely was confused when I had Bombos and then I had the big key and we were speaking about what to do. If one climbs GT and the other one is going TR, but then we don't speak about who is doing it, and I think I decided myself then that I do it, but that was not a good play, I think, because Ace was on the way to his GT big key, and I could have reached the Ice Rod in the same moment he is in GT. I'm not sure where Yaga was at that point when I went out of GT.
He was just about to get his Ice Rod. I was kind of looking at the VOD a bit, but
So he was ahead of me.
He was ahead of you, yeah. Not by a
what I
ton.
did.
Aces was ahead of me a bit as well, though, so it was fairly even, actually.
Okay, and then I fell apart with my execution as well.
Well, yeah.
My GT and TR was very, very bad. Both those dungeons were just a nightmare.
Yeah, I had spent the extra time for half magic, too, so I had half magic and silvers versus you not having either.
Yeah, I mean, it shouldn't be necessary with Butter Sword and Blue Mail and 11 Hearts, but I still, like, almost died everywhere, and I messed up on the right side of GT. I tried something different to, like, preserve magic and the torch room, and, like, I ran out of time, and the door shut on me, so I had to go reset the room, and that was really bad.
Oh, is that what happened? Okay, yeah, because I think I just saw the tail end, and I was wondering what you were doing up there. Like, it seemed like you were maybe like had some indecision point at that point or something.
Yeah, I was gonna reset it from the top like you would if you were using Lamp, but I didn't need to use Lamp because I still had enough magic to do it again with Fire Rod. So that's why like I was kind of dancing around between the doors. But I should have just done what I'm used to doing and just accepted the fact that I was going to be low on magic and take the refill from the refill room, which I ended up getting anyway.
Yeah, I feel like, to me, when we were practicing, Quick swap is really nice. I really like quick swap, and you can do a lot of fancy stuff with it. But it's so difficult to like just think, communicate, mark track, and quick swap at the same time. So I was considering doing something like that as well. Just switch to lamp in order to preserve magic, but it's just like, nah, I'm just gonna skip that for now.
Yeah. Yeah, I think we both forgot. Like, we forgot we had quick swap on for the first few minutes, at least, of the race.
I think
Yeah.
still we did really good. It was like our first race ever together also.
Yeah.
And my first race in English, I think, with co-op. So
Oh, okay. That makes
without
make it
this
tougher
big
too.
mistake, I think it was okay. And it was funny too.
Yeah.
Did anyone get to do? Oops, sorry.
Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, you go ahead and finish that thought. I was gonna.
I was just going to say, we're definitely working out the kinks with our new team, since it's showing a little bit that we weren't in the league last year, but we might have to take a couple weeks to get used to each other a little bit more.
I have faith you guys will get there. We're just lucky to get you week 1.
Yeah, I mean, I think. Sorry, go ahead, Freddie.
Well, I was just gonna see if anyone else did the fun find bombs everywhere starting to that seed.
Holy cow! Everywhere.
Just bombs everywhere. It's like, okay, I went to Uncle, found bombs. Okay, I guess I'll go check Sahasrara then. Oh, hey, 6 more bombs. I guess I'll go do Mini Moldorm then. Oh, look, 6 more bombs.
Weren't there like 15 bombs in Kakariko or something ridiculous?
I don't know. Yaga didn't tell me. Was there that many more bombs in Kakariko? Just bombs everywhere.
It was just a book in Kakariko, that's it.
Yeah, it was very empty, because I went there straight away and found
Had
almost
the
nothing
book,
up that way.
though.
To get that Quake medallion.
Well, to get to Desert.
Well, that too, yeah.
It's certainly
Cape and Mirror, which would put you up the mountain for Moon Pearl. Ugh.
Mm-hmm.
Let's
and
just
boots,
play
and
this.
Fire Rod
and
and Hookshot.
Let's just play this game vanilla.
It certainly has been quite some time since I saw somebody who couldn't afford the dwarves festival.
Oh my goodness, right. I was thinking, like, I can't remember the last time I haven't had money for the blacksmith.
It was
only
Just-
10?
You take it. Is it 10? I
Yeah.
thought it was 5.
no, it was 10, and you
it's
had
10
4.
rupees. Mm-hmm.
Well, I was going for 5.
Oh,
I thought I was
great.
going for the 5th one. Yeah, no, I
Was
just
there something different? The other team did like mid-game or early game.
Honestly, you guys, it's somewhat difficult to keep track of because obviously, you guys are trying not to go over each other's steps as best you can until like right at the end, because then that means you can go mode more things and skip more things just in general. But I feel like you guys were doing similar things at similar times in terms of what you guys were checking. I can't think of any really big divergence other than I don't remember which one of you actually had to double dip Meyer because of the Cane of Samaria being an ice palace. But other than that, and then Hitsuyan's venture into Turtle Rock, I think it was pretty similar in terms of routing.
Also with the bow and pot, that someone from the other team found the bow.
Oh
there.
yeah, they did find. Yes, that's right.
Okay.
Was that? I think that was you, Freddeh, who grabbed the bow really early in pod, or relatively early.
No, that was must have been Ace. I was finishing. I went to Pot early, but only got the map out of the first chest and left and just did
Gotcha.
Eastern.
Okay.
And then I got both of my bottles off of Pyramid and Catfish. And I'm like, well, I'll just come back later for this. And then I found bow, and I decided to make the dip into Swamp and found the bow left side.
Ace was too fast for me for Catfish. I was on the way to Catfish and then he found the ice rod. That would be our last check.
Yeah,
To
that was every
completely
check in the
deceive.
game, in every dungeon, every overworld check, except that one.
I think, yeah, we checked everything but Turtle Rock and Tile Room
And powder.
and
Magic
Powder,
bag.
right?
That's the safer play also, to do the pyramid into Catfish, I think, at the end.
Yeah.
But we were trying to skip it. And then I went there. I don't know.
We tried our best to skip Meyer items. I saved it as the very last thing before I went up the mountain. I was seeing if you could find both in GT before I finished. And no such luck. I still had to find the single rupee and whatever the other useless item was.
Piece of heart, I think.
Piece of heart. Yeah, that sounds about right.
In the compass chest.
At the very least, I didn't have to do the big key chest.
Yeah, I skipped that as well. That was a good call.
Yeah. I pretty much always skip the big key chest until last when I'm looking for items and that.
Yeah,
In
I was
Meyer
on the
nowadays.
fence. And I was on the fence, but getting the piece of heart, having only one more item to find, made it feel like a pretty good idea to continue skipping that.
Meyer
definitely made me sweat though.
Meyer, in my experience for this particular version of Rando, is terrifying because like either you walk in there and there's absolutely nothing and you feel like you wasted a bunch of time, because usually when that's the case you get the big key really, really early and you're like, oh, I could have saved 5 minutes going right side, then left side, then right side, then back to the left, and then back over to Vidi. Or it's completely loaded and you get a combination like, I don't know, Cane of Samaria and Mirror in Meyer, and you're just like, why?
Yeah.
I will say that it did seem like all four of you had just like really solid execution like throughout the scene. Maybe not, kind of towards the end of the scene, I guess with some of the things that I've already been mentioned, like GT and TR. But I think everyone had to go fight Moth with like relatively low-ish health. And certainly early on, I know that we saw Hitsu do it. And everyone came out, alive. So that was really cool to see. Yeah, I think you had a really nice Trinex fight. You had a really nice cold stare fight. These are just some of the things I remember.
Thanks. Kappa.
Yeah.
We were certainly very happy that you didn't die, Hitsu, because I'm not sure what type of mood you would have been put in if you hadn't died to Moth at that point.
Oh man, Moth and Colds there. That are the hardest bosses for me.
I honestly hate Mothula. Like, I would rather fight a Cold Stare and a Vidi on just not fun things. And I don't like either of those fights either, but I'm so bad at Mothula. It's just...
I think Mothula might be my favorite fight.
Of course.
I don't actually mind Mothula. It's actually not that bad of a
same.
fight, but I went in with Butter Sword and plenty of hearts, so it was kind of like, okay, whatever.
Well, sure. If
throw
you're
my
going to give
face
me
at him a bunch.
Butter Sword... If you're going to give me Butter Sword, I don't really care what boss you throw in front of me. You just look at it and it, splits in half. Like, that's fine. But
unless you spin on accident
low percent
with your Butter
stuff.
Sword, and then you do no damage.
That is fair.
Mothula is one of the few fights I actually actively practice with just hammer, because it's so much more efficient than trying to use anything else if you don't have at least tempered sword. I feel like that's one of the fights that is just worth to practice. But at the same time, I definitely understand the sentiment. It can get out of hand so quick.
I've tried practicing Mothula several times, and that usually ends up with me needing a new controller. So I've stopped practicing Mothula, and it is what it is.
Yeah, the other good one to practice for Moth is Fighter Sword, or Master Sword Fire Rod, because there's too many seeds where you get early Fire Rod and mitts or something silly, and you need to be able to do Schoolwood's a fairly low hit point.
Yeah, see, that's not nearly as bad. But if you're throwing me in there with like a hammer and a fighter sword, that's where things start to get dicey.
Hammer anything, it's not too bad. you get used to it. You just gotta practice it a bit.
Mm.
Practice is hard though.
All right, so this
Argus. I was happy with my Argus fight for Fighter Sword Argus.
We all
that one's not fun.
We only like running the seat, not practicing.
Exactly. See, Hitsu knows.
So yeah, this was actually your first race of the week, right? And looking at the schedule, you guys have another race starting at 2 p.m. Eastern on Saturday, I want to say?
Yep, tomorrow.
Yep, tomorrow night. Or tomorrow morning, rather. Or afternoon.
Tomorrow afternoon, yeah.
Today for Yagamoth,
yeah.
It's depending on where you're at, it's one of those times. But yeah, it's Yagamoth and Fant versus AceZer0 and Waterloo, I believe.
Yep.
Yeah,
that's
certainly
right.
best of luck to both teams.
Need Hitsuya to be lazy and watch.
I mean, that's always the best thing to do, right? You know, you've sat here, you've completed your seed, and now you get to sit back with popcorn and just make snarky comments in chat. That's what
Exactly.
Waterloo
Really
was
fun.
doing the entire time for this seed, so it works out.
Good job, Waterloo.
Nice.
All right, so did any of you guys have anything you wanted to end this interview with before we head on out for the night?
Thank you for
mainly-
commentating.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Mainly
same,
thank you
thanks.
for commentating and tracking and restreaming, and thank you for participating to our opponents. GG.
Yeah, same. GG, and glad it was a close race, at least up until the very end there. That last find of the ice rod.
Yeah, GG's and thanks, Clearmouse Hammer. Clearmouse commentating like every race I do.
And Hammer
we
commentates
are-
every race I do.
Yeah, I was gonna say. I
Howdy,
think we're very happy to support all four of you here. I think the streak so far hasn't been broken yet, Hammer. Right?
I don't believe so. I think, Freddeh, you're 7-0 with me calming or something ridiculous in the last year.
Did you not call me either in my playoff series against
Correct.
Oasis?
That's
Wow.
correct. I think it
Okay.
was too early for
So
me or
then-
too late for me. So
Yeah, we're weird odd times. Makes sense. Well, guess keep the streak alive then. I'm fine with that streak.
all right. Anyways, I think that's all we've got. There are a boatload of races coming up for both the Invitational League, as you guys saw today, and the Open League as well. So keep an eye on those schedules. Shout outs to our trackers, Duodeca and Irker. I probably pronounced that wrong, and I'm very sorry for not asking you how to pronounce it before we went live, but I forgot, and I'm an idiot, so blame the dingus in the booth. That's all I've got. Huge shout-outs to my co-com Clearmouse. As always, it's been a blast. Have a good night, guys, and stay tuned for more Rando in the upcoming days.